So welcome everybody. Welcome to the Lisk Community gathering. It's a weekly gathering, and every week we have one guest or two guests. This time it's two guests from the USA. We have Edward and we have Matt, also known as Stellar Dynamic and Ultra Fresh. We will do it a little bit differently. We will create a kind of question-answer session. It will be led by Matt, but first a quick few announcements, or see it as the news. So we will post also the links in the Lisk Builder community chat, and we provided a newsletter from the Lisk Center Utrecht this week because we also were in the national news, and we also have some links to developer tools because Corbifax created an HTTP API, or he extended the Lisk API, so you can use it to actually search and filter through assets, which might be useful if you are a developer. And also do not forget the custom transaction registry, because if we all try to add our custom transactions to that open registry, then other people can reuse the transactions. So in that case, we can build further upon each other's modules and work actually, so we can help each other out. Let's go to the meetup of today. I would like to invite Matt to introduce himself and introduce Edward, and then I'll just wait on the questions. Let's go. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yes, this is Matthew. I'm glad to be here. Very excited. A little bit of background about myself. I've been working with Lisk USA for several years. I've hosted many meetups personally in the US for Lisk, and I've worked with even more. So probably in total, I've done been involved with over 24 meetups in the US, maybe a little less than that. And recently I've been moving from being involved with promotion and education and doing more education myself and getting involved more of the development and project aspect.
And I'm Edward. Most of you know me as Stellar Dynamic around the community, but for those who don't, I've been involved in outreach in the United States for a few years now via the Lisk USA organization. We also run Sidechain Solutions, which we'll give a little bit more information about later. But I've been in Lisk basically since the beginning of mainnet, and it is my current main focus and dedication.
Cool. Welcome.
And Yuri, just give a little bit of information about yourself.
Yes, so my name is Jurre. I'm part of the Moosty team. We are with the three of us, Corbifax, Rafael, and Jurre, and we run the Lisk Center in Utrecht. So it's a physical co-work space where we host meetups and bring together developers and blockchain enthusiasts from different platforms, actually. And in addition, we are creating a network here with companies and knowledge institutes like universities and students. And with the three of us, we are also developing proof of concepts on the Lisk blockchain. So we are actually, like Corbifax is the full stack backend developer, and he can do everything. And Rafael and I are doing the front end if we are talking about developing actual blockchain proof of concepts. I think that's it, actually.
Okay, yeah, that's wonderful. The reason why is because especially I'm going to be showing this to some people that have never listened in, so I wanted to make sure you gave them some info about yourself. And am I? Could you pronounce your name one more time? Am I pronouncing it incorrectly?
It's always difficult. Like Dutch people pronounce it Jurre.
Jura.
Yes,
Jura.
perfect.
Beautiful.
Okay, I like to call people by what their name should be, so I don't want to. Okay, Jura. Okay, excellent. Um, and Jura, I actually had a question for you. Involving your outreach that you do. Do you find that a lot of these companies and schools come to you, or do you have to go to them?
I think it's an interaction. Um, Last year, we actually reached out to different universities because obviously nobody knew us, but we provide space, and actually if they know what we are doing, they also come to us and ask for help and collaboration. So I think it's an interaction, but if there is more material online, I think they would also be able to find it themselves. Um, Currently, there is no curriculum about blockchain whatsoever, or it's just like they are starting with it.
Yeah, we see some similar outcomes in the U.S. We have some people that need a little bit of a push or need to be introduced, and that's why some of the advertising is really excellent. But we all also have tons of curious people who are sending us emails and communications now. We're not going to do as many in-person meetings and such as of recent, but the communications still continue and the curiosity still continues. So we hope to be able to fulfill any um, suggestions and requests that come from the community.
Yes, perfect. We also see that currently it's getting more attention, actually. So it becomes much easier to get in touch with everybody.
Yes, for Lisk USA, for example, we were planning on starting out this year pretty strong. There's an event in the US called South by Southwest that gets over 100,000 plus members that go there to this large convention, and blockchain technology in recent years has been involved. But obviously, due to the pandemic and all that, a lot of those large events were canceled. So while Lisk USA personally, we haven't released many reports or done many meetups, for obvious reasons, we plan on continuing pretty strong. And that's why I was asking about the your engagement with schools, because people don't seem quite as interested in meeting up in large gatherings, maybe at like for a meetup, but schools are about to be active, and there's lots of college age individuals that are very interested in cryptocurrency. So I think that's going to be where we head as well, is starting to approach colleges and schools directly.
Yeah, it's a bit of a paradigm shift, but I think we can take the good of what we had from the old and integrate what we have learned now from the digital and sort of make an even better and more applicable scenario in regards to the development of the project and the education of our user base.
Okay, and yeah, that was a little bit of an update on Lisk USA. Edward, do you want to give us an update on sidechain solutions?
Just briefly, Sidechain Solutions is officially back in full swing. We are talking to a few different developers about upgrading our proof of concepts to the SDK's latest spec. We developed our proof of concepts on one of the very earliest versions of the SDK, so they're going to need to be made recompatible with the newest code, and we're doing that as it emerges. Of course, we're waiting on documentation and other things in order to have a more clear understanding of how we're going to do it. But we also do have some major future plans in regards to an interoperable chain that will be released on the List network. It's not going to be Chronicler. We actually have pivoted away from that. But we are still going to maintain Chronicler as the educational product that it continues to serve. Other than that, though, Sidechain Solutions is looking for up and coming talents to demonstrate that they are dedicated and want to be involved. We have a long-standing reputation of rewarding that, and we intend to continue that. Um, that's the majority of what's going on with Sidechain Solutions. So I don't want to get into that too much today because we have a lot on the agenda here, and we have some really great awards to give out later in the ceremony. So we're going to go ahead and knock out some of these questions that are the state of Lisk.
All right, so a few questions, Edward or Yora, or I guess myself could take any of these. The first one I'd like to ask. Okay, so let's see. Yora, let's ask you. What do you think is the most interesting project being developed on Lisk right now?
I think that's a very difficult question actually, because I'm involved with different projects myself, and I think it's also a very early stage, so everything is just proof of concepts. And what I really like is the building blocks that other people can reuse. So to be honest, I think for me personally, I like decentralized autonomous organizations. So I'm really interested in the proof of concept Peter Nobles is developing, and we are also helping him with it. But since it's not fair to like always talk about your own applications, I think in addition, I'm really looking forward to Moracle also, because I'm really looking forward to what Jackson is going to deliver as a Oracle service for Lisk.
Yeah, just to follow up on that a little bit before I go into what I think are the most interesting projects. Moracle, I feel like, is probably the most foundational application we have in development. The idea of the Oracle of being able to bring information from outside of a closed network like a blockchain in is really integral to so many types of apps. And so once we have a functioning Oracle in the ecosystem, so many applications that need data from the outside can thrive. So Moracle is absolutely foundational in terms of our future plans, and I'm sure the production runs of lots of others. Um, but for me, if I had to think which I think are the ones that are the most interesting as of right now, well, let's see. Of course, you don't want to toot your own horn, but I do like Lisk Inviter and Chronicler. I think that those have been excellent proof of concepts. Um, but beyond that, I would say that Corbin's is what is it, the data, um, the track the what is it, the tracking program that he has on for global data. That's really interesting. Um, let's see what else we have out there. Davi's restaurant chain, I think, is really interesting because it brings into the ecosystem sort of the retail approach and sort of like shows people that, hey, you can build one of these networks of chains for almost any purpose, and you can identify various assets and or products in your chain very easily, just you know on a basic addressing system. And obviously we can get more complex than that, but um, some of these are really quite promising though, and I have a lot of faith that our young developers are going to move from the proof of concept phase into ideas that they really think are production and possibly profitable in the end.
Yes, I really agree with you. And I also think what you said about Davi's proof of concept, for example, I really like the fact that there are so many different concepts currently developed already. And in the end, it's about those different ideas and the different building blocks. If we can combine it, if other people can reuse it, and we can work as a community together, it's really beneficial for the whole ecosystem. And actually, we are getting more and more quality in. So I think there are so many different concepts. You can do so many different things with Lisk. That's difficult to choose.
Yeah, I think it also is worth mentioning too is Jesus the Hun's feet chain, which sort of started to bring in some of the more the idea of sort of the non-fungible asset on the chain which is something that really hasn't been achieved in the Lisk ecosystem, but that sort of is in that direction. So I think that one deserves mention as well.
Actually, I'll add on to that one. That's actually, I think, incredibly important because for a case like on Ethereum, they had to make a standard for creating non-fungible tokens. And from studying some of the other larger ecosystems, if Lisk doesn't have a standard for how to make non-fungible tokens, then you're going to have a real issue with having these things interact with each other. Especially, right now we only have, I guess, one main wallet. I guess there's a second wallet from Harish, but the wallets especially will have a very hard time if everyone's making their own non-fungible token a completely different way. So as far as interesting things happening, I think getting standards like that up and running on the for Lisk as a ecosystem is very important.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons we created the open custom transaction registry page on GitHub, especially to collect all the different transactions that can be reused and also can function as a standard or be improved. I like
Oh, that's
that approach.
a fantastic idea.
We'll make sure to provide a link to that information in the repository at the end. How about that? And we'll go ahead and move on to the next question.
Okay, this is a fun one. So obviously we have the upcoming quote unquote protocol upgrade for Lisk. So now we're on what, about to close 5.0?
Well, the
But
changes are being
right. So now that we have several versions of everything going on, what is your favorite? We'll start with you, Edward. What is your favorite protocol upgrade?
Well, first and foremost, I like the dynamic fees that are coming in. I think it's been an important factor that the fees were high early on so that the chain couldn't be spammed while the price was cheap. But now that the economy has sort of scaled, we need to have a fee model that can actually is actually affordable on a mass scale and that can adjust on the fly. And so I think the dynamic fee system will really get everything moving. And so I think that's probably my favorite improvement that's in the changes up to 5.0.
Yes, we actually used dynamic fees in our proof of concept recurrent payment already. That's the reason we have to wait for a release by Lisk because we are using a newer version of the SDK. But it works like a charm.
Yeah, there's a bit of some difficulty there with the various versions and whatnot, but we're looking into the very latest specifications now, and we're having our developers get up to date with the latest specification. Um, not that everything is changing, but there are some significant things that will need to be overhauled. So that's where we're at with that right now.
How about yourself, Yara? What's of all the protocol changes coming along, any of them catch your fancy?
I think it's a difficult question. I'm not specifically in favor of a specific protocol update, but I'm really curious how the new DPoS system will evolve, because I think it's really important for Lisk to have a functioning DPoS system, and it's the one vote, one delegate, one vote. I'm not sure how it is called, but I'm really curious how that will evolve and if it will mature the community also, and also give more faith in the system.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting approach up until the transition, and we're looking at a hard fork. And just a little context for everyone who's here, these initial changes were rejected pretty much unanimously by the community initially. So they've had to kind of sell the community on the idea of these changes, but a lot of the research and scientific basis is very robust, and they have written the documentation, and they have confronted the community and their concerns. And so I think we've reached a point with it where it is in fact the right move to make. um, but I am also interested to see how this transition happens. I know that the idea of the delegate proposal is going to have to change, the way that it works in regards, you're going to have to sort of rebrand yourself, and your proposal in terms of, joining in the new consensus as a delegate. But I do think that this would also present a major opportunity for anyone who's sitting on the sidelines and is really trying to get in there. So um, we're gonna see what happens. I think that it would be a good idea if we open up the discussion soon about making the transition into the newer version, getting past this hard fork, having our votes coordinated so that there's no loss of time, or any sort of downtimes or anything like that, and also that we have our contributors prepared to make a proper proposal as the transition begins.
Yes, I agree. And if I can add one more aspect that we think is very interesting is the fact that undo assets um, is being updated, and that really speeds up development. So
Excellent.
Could you elaborate on that last point just a little bit?
So um, if you would like to change something within the database, like the blockchain, you perform a transaction, and every transaction has a life cycle. So you have 4 steps, and the last step is actually where you can reverse what you changed within the chain. So if something happens and you have to reverse your transaction so you have to reverse the chain to the original state before your transaction, then you need that undo asset. And before, you had to create it yourself. And in the future, we actually do not have to create it anymore because Lisk actually fixes everything for you. So then I'm guessing you only have uh, 3 phases of the life cycle, and fourth is just automatically happening.
Yeah, I would just like to briefly say that the Moosey team especially has had a major effect and involvement in getting these issues like the one just mentioned to HQ so that they can address them in the next versions. And really, the Moosey project and the Moosey team are one of the ones that lead the way on making this progress and communicating the struggles with HQ. So we really thank you guys for that.
Thank you for the compliment.
The one thing I'll say for the upcoming changes, um, I definitely think obviously the changing to the voting mechanism and all of that is definitely going to be very important. What I think is going to be particularly interesting about it though is I take it from more of a anarcho-capitalist type of perspective. And so the permissionlessness of it, I think, is what's really interesting. And I find with a one token, one vote system, you don't need very much permission. Whereas right now, if you want to be an active delegate, you essentially you need permission from the large delegate pools, right? If you don't have permission from GDT and Elite, you're not getting in. But in the future system, if you have enough tokens, I mean, people don't even have to like you. In fact, they can hate you, and there's nothing they can do about it. If you have the tokens to get in and start forging, and then you can do that. And so I think the reason that's going to be particularly interesting is it's going to allow that permissionlessness where I think that the environment in the new consensus and new voting is going to be completely different.
And that's an important point too, because uh, in order to achieve this decentralization, permission is one of the factors that you think about. Is this going to be an open and decentralized system, or do I have to go through gatekeepers in order to become a contributor or a factor in it? So that's a good point. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the next question.
This is an interesting one. So, Yura, we'll start with you. Do you think that Lisk will be able to compete in the future market? And I preface that with the fact that we have Ethereum 2.0 coming. We've got Tron 4.0. Everyone is starting to say that they're upgrading and about to release their new thing. So, with that in perspective, how do you think Lisk is going to do and be able to compete in the future?
I think it's a lot of guessing, so there's no truth in here. But if I look at ourselves, how I see it is that Ethereum is upgrading to 2.0, but Lisk actually is built already towards that kind of system with their sidechains. So in that case, if you look at it from that perspective, you're not behind at all, because Ethereum is not even at 2.0, and we are already also in reaching that stage. But if I just look at what we are doing right now currently, and also what Jonathan said last week, then we can reuse what we build every day. So we build our first proof of concept within 4 weeks, and most of it was like details. With the undo asset changing, development speed again moves up. So it's easy to build with Lisk, and I don't know how it will compete with the other chains, because maybe there are different advantages of using another system. You have a large community within Ethereum. But for us, if we would like to prototype or help a business or help somebody out, it's very easy to build it with Lisk. So I do not know how it will compete, but I'm sure that we can really easy build blockchain networks by reusing what we are already doing. And if Lisk improves, then that's getting easier all the time. So I think it has a big advantage, but I'm not sure. It might also be that you, like for example, Tron already has a user base and an area where it's big. We'll see. Time will tell.
No, I think that's a great answer. And if I'm really getting your perspective from it, it sounds like you think the swiftness that Lisk can have, the fact that these other chains are so big and have so many components involved, it's so hard to get something done. But for Lisk, for example, we're a lot lighter, a lot quicker, and we're able to continually build on top of what we've already made. And so I guess you're seeing that speed is going to be a big benefit for us. For me personally, like I had talked to you before a little bit, I consider myself, I guess, like a script kiddie. I'm starting to understand the concepts and being able to build a few things. Right now just running a few nodes. But from looking at Ethereum to Lisk, especially in JavaScript, I was able obviously I had some help, but I was able to spin up a Lisk node fairly easily. I was able to get the concepts down. But then going to some of these other chains, I mean, I'm lost. The learning curve is definitely there, and I can see it.
Yeah, and I would just add a few things to all of that. The convenience factor of Lisk is obviously key. I think the other essential difference that we need to recognize here is that when you use the Lisk SDK, you can actually launch your own blockchain. That's not something you can as conveniently do natively with any of the other platforms that I'm aware of. So first, I guess we have to ask, you know, what are we actually competing, or who are we competing with? And we kind of sort of have our own segment away from Ethereum. Now, Ethereum does have various third-party support for side chains and that type of thing, but when it comes to Lisk, it's built in, it's well documented. The organization that is doing the documentation is well funded, and Lisk is in a really great position between, being able to see the mistakes that have been made by the platforms before us, and also that we've become a original and code base that has downstream projects as well. And we've seen this with a number of our forks. They've been able to test things that we're now implementing before us, giving us an idea of whether that's a good idea or not. Um, so I would say that Lisk is really it's got a number of positions for it to compete because number one, it gives everyone their own blockchain. Number two, that as I said, the simplicity, and and really even the community too, and the design of the delegated proof of stake contributes or sort of generates this grassroots contribution platform, and our community has done a really great job of that. I would say that the other key to us competing is continuing to do these meetings, continuing to build our understanding, to lift up the community members that um, are are not funded by a delegate, especially, but also to support each other and to contribute anywhere that you can.
Yes, nice answer. I think what you said about like competition, we could look at Polkadot, Cosmos, and Komodo, for example. They are in the same area. I'm not familiar with their code and basic with everything, but I think they are doing the same thing or trying to achieve the same thing with a different strategy. But if you look at the websites, then Lisk is more focused on usability, I think.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the last question in the state of Lisk section, and then we will open the floor for a bit, and then after that, we will go into the award.
All right. So since I'm going to be, of course, sharing this with a lot of new listeners, um, Yura, we'll start with you. What are the most common or most common reoccurring questions you get from people trying to participate in Lisk?
Ooh, I think uh, I think most people ask me when they are trying to participate within the blockchain scene. So it's not specifically because they are looking for Lisk, but because they are interested uh, in blockchain in general. And um,
So how to get involved?
sorry, what did you say?
So they're asking how to get involved, like joining the community and all that, more than just potentially just like buying some Lisk.
Yeah. So um, I think most of the people do not have specific questions. That's that's a difficult thing because they do not have the specific questions. It's also difficult to answer them specifically. But what I think happens is that people do not have the overview. People do not have cannot grasp the whole thing. So it's difficult to onboard people within the blockchain scene because they do not know uh, how it works, how it looks like, what the concept is, and they cannot yet distinguish platforms from apps from and future applications from what we are building right now. So it's difficult to grasp what you are doing, and um, and people have difficulty with understanding that what you said before, Edward, is that with Lisk you actually spin up your own blockchain. Um, so in general, I think an overview of what is being built by the different platforms is what they are looking for. A quick overview of what is being built, a quick overview of uh, the, the different angles to start, like start building Lisk SDK, start talking to developers, Discord, for example, or start learning meetups. That overview is needed for it is there, but people are just need to get a little hand to join the community.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. It's mostly people trying to distinguish the differences between various projects. There's a lot of tribalism in the cryptocurrency space, and so people have certainly heard bad things about one project from another, and so a lot of that needs to be dispelled sometimes. Um, but yeah, really, it's mainly just a lot of genuine interest from people who want to learn more, and or and just even just invest. But in general, we those are pretty much the questions that we hear, the ones that you mentioned.
No, that's actually really good to hear because at least for me personally, the first question I asked myself, years ago, after I already had, some Bitcoin and all of that, that wasn't enough. I asked, how can I do more? How can I get involved? So like hearing that that's still kind of what people are asking, not that it's a specific question, but that it's like, what can I do? What can Lisk potentially provide me? That's definitely that's a good perspective. Um, and yeah, so that's pretty good. That's pretty much all the questions. And I think we now have a few announcements to make.
But before we get into that, actually, we wanted to open it up for a short minute to allow anyone to. We're going to open the floor for the audience if anybody wants to state a question or say anything about what we've discussed here. Um, Please, by all means. I also will go ahead and give you a little bit of ammunition to work with that if you don't have anything that you want to say. We're looking for questions, comments, issues, and other things that we can relay to HQ. Um, and so anything that, any suggestions and whatnot that you have, we'll make sure that they're brought up to HQ. I will definitely relay that suggestion. I know that you've mentioned that or something about that to me the other day, Clark. Thank you for the question. I'm gonna bring that up to HQ and see what their process is, what their intentions are for the future. All right. Anybody else? Any thoughts or suggestions? Everybody's just here for the goods, huh?
So actually, the Firebase model, I'm not familiar with it. How does it work? Do you know that?
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with the particular platform, but maybe Clark can give us a little bit more information. All right, as we're getting an answer for that, we're gonna just to follow up too. We're gonna go ahead and pass that through to HQ, and we'll go ahead and just say it one last time. Anyone has any more statements before we move on to the
Oh, there you go.
Lisk USA All Stars of the Alpha SDK period? Thank you for the answer, Clark. Much appreciated. And yeah, obviously Google's got a massive pull, so we definitely want to see what of their tools we can make use of.
Okay, cool. And then we have a pretty big announcement, I guess, from Lisk USA.
Yeah.
We need to.
So we started this last year in 2019, and it was basically just a broad recognition and reward program for the community. And last year there were, we decided to do it, and we had, I think 5 or 6 categories, and we picked a number of contributors in each one, I think up to 5. This year, it's just going to be one winner for each category, but we've added some categories. And so we're going to go ahead and move on to that. Just a second. I'm going to make sure we have the slides prepared. Yuri, do you have the slides, or should we pull them up? He's got them.
Can you see them?
Yep. Okay, I'll read off the category, and then after I'm done reading off the category, you can move to the slide with the winner, okay? And just to briefly say, everyone who is a winner will be receiving 100 Lisk. We really think that all these candidates deserve more, but we are just a single organization. So I highly encourage any of the delegates that are here who can make a contribution to any of these winners that they go ahead and add to the stack. Thank you. So for our first category, we have the most practical technical solution. And the winner is Lisk Poland PL. Now, you may be asking yourself, why Lisk Poland? Well, Lisk Poland has been fighting a war behind the scenes for us in the Lisk Discord as well as the Lisk chat. And this involves several Lisk Discord bots and operational security techniques that are both active and automated managed. And I'm not sure that many of you know this, but there are some very persistent and recurring threats, basically trolls, that enjoy wasting their time and even spending their money to try to challenge our security of our chat communications and all of that. So we've just chosen Lisk Poland for this award, and we think he really deserves it. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next category, the most underrated contributor.
I lost your sound.
Yeah, I think the sound is good. Now, can you hear?
Yes, I can hear you.
You can go ahead and move to the next slide. Make sure we have this in order. So the most underrated contributor is Crypto Embassy. They have been dedicated to Lisk in a number of ways for quite some time now. And besides the meetups that they've been a part of for a long time, they finally have been working and tooling on their latest project, which is really impressive. And so I highly suggest that you all take a look at the work being done by Crypto Embassy whenever you get a chance. And we're really happy that we're able to reward them with the 100 Lisk today.
Yes, I'd like to also say that that they are, like, I forgot Lisk Poland, but he really helped with setting up this Lisk Community Meetup also with his visuals. So thank you for that. And for Crypto Embassy, they are actually creating, or they would like to create a MetaMask-like system for Lisk. So I'm really looking forward to their solution.
Yeah, that's really a really important thing as we evolve and have more of these individual projects and side chains. We are going to, for certain, need something to organize all of it.
We need that in our life. Yeah, we need it.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the next winner. The all-around rising star. This is Davy. Now, this is a personal friend of mine now because we've been working together so closely over the past year or so. But he's been contributing on testnet for maybe close to 2 years now. Maybe I don't know exactly how long, but I've been doing security research with him since September of last year, and he's contributed in a number of ways. But soon after that, he took up his own and began writing a scientific paper for Lisk that introduced Lisk to the scientific community. And it's a very excellent and well detailed paper that details some of the security challenges and struggles that the delegates face. Um, so if you get a chance to, or if you want to read that, we can provide the link somewhere below, and we'll do that shortly. Um, Also, Davy just recently completed his Lisk restaurant proof of concept, which is an even greater step in the right direction. So, just to briefly preface, he started on testnet. He moved into security research, which is a part of his studies at university. Um, and now he's finally got a proof of concept. Oh, he wrote his paper, and then now he's finally got a proof of concept Lisk restaurant, which has just showed the evolution of his learning and understanding. And so, in terms of a rising star, I think Davy is one of the best choices. Keep in mind too, everyone, that these reward choices were from the period um, of basically about July of last year until now. So it's looking at all of that time.
Oh, is Davy in the chat? Yeah, shout out to Davy. Yeah. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Make sure to check out his blog about his restaurant sidechain.
Yes, we'll provide some links here too as well. Thank you so much, Davy, for all your contributions. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the next winners here. All right, so the top SDK tester and contributor, the person who has given the most advice and also brought up the most issues and challenges that he was facing, proving that he was working on it in good faith without a delegate long before it was the cool thing to do. And so Jesus the Hun has really advanced HQ's ability to respond to some of the issues that they wouldn't be able to see themselves. And Jesus the Hun just released his feat chain project recently, which I know I mentioned that earlier, so I won't go too much back into it. But that is an excellent evolution in the Lisk ecosystem of proof of concepts, and so we're very proud to be offering him the reward and recognition today. Thank you.
Yes, congratulations. And I think also Rafael will send the link within the chat about VeChain, the meetup of last week.
Thank you. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next. All right. So the most helpful community liaison. This guy right here, Presmer. I don't know what his first name is or his real name, or if he's in jail. I don't know. We'll never know.
This anonymous guy here, we love him.
But he has been there pretty much for any technical question, concern, people who have locked themselves out of their wallets. He's also defended us from various threats. He's been available to answer my questions. He was also involved in security research last year in terms of the peer buckets issue, and I'm sure probably other things as well. But I know for a fact that he was one of the major people involved in reporting a significant issue that we did, in fact, have resolved in one of the latest versions now. So, really, Presmer has just been around, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, congratulations. And we might never know who he is, but he's willing to help.
Sometimes we like to keep it that way, you know.
All right, we'll go ahead and move into the next one. So the most active community member, undisputed. This guy right here is Greets. with hello and good night as for as long as I can remember, and no one can beat this guy. You cannot say hello before minions, and you cannot say goodbye before minions because he's there. And not only that, but he's got a extremely long list of underrated contributions. Um, really, that you should take a look at. A lot of them are really interesting concepts, actually, and really cool stuff. Um, so yeah, if you want to take a look at the long list of stuff that he's done, he's got his proposal in the list chat, and you can see all of the contributions that he's made. And we really just want to thank Minions for being a uh, good community member with a good attitude. Because as of recent, it was a bit of a letdown to see Minions stuck right outside of the delegation. So I think you guys should show some support for him as well. He's been a major contributor.
Oh, and Minions is in the chat. Good. Minions, tell us the truth. It's a bot. It's a bot that says hello and good night, isn't it? Just tell us, man. Just let us know. Oh, he's gone. He left. I called. No, congratulations to Minions, definitely.
Yes, congratulations, and keep up the good work. Should I click on the next one?
Yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the next win. So I had to hide this slide from these guys. That's why I couldn't give you the slides until the end. But let's just say that Moosey team has been absolutely studs when it comes to hosting meetups, facilitating the community, leading the way on development. Honestly, this excellence in meetup hosting doesn't even begin to describe how excellent the Moosey team has been for the Lisk community. The fact that they entered the delegation is a victory for Lisk because, frankly, if we lost these guys, it would be a major blow to our community and our ecosystem. So, I just wanted to briefly recognize you guys. You will all be getting the reward, and you're the only ones that are an exception to the delegation rule, and I have no regrets about it at all. Um, so yeah, I mean, Moosey team has absolutely been all star rock stars in this category for sure.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure I've ever had so many compliments within the Lisk ecosystem until now. So thank you very much. And everybody, thanks for being here.
Yeah, I just wanted to actually say one more too, briefly. We seem to have misplaced. It must have been on my part, and I apologize. We seem to have misplaced one of the slides. But I would just like to also mention excellence in communications is John Muck. John Muck had, especially through, yeah, we'll get to that one in a second. But John Muck, even though he may not be doing the same efforts he is now, when he last year he was really significant in the communications and news reporting of Lisk and also the defense of Lisk in many of the very hostile platforms like Reddit and others. So we just wanted to also give the award to John Muck for excellence in communications. And yeah, we do have one last reward as well. So this was a tough one because there are some excellent HQ contributors, but Shoes has gone above and beyond in his private time to assist us on proof of concepts, security research, and just really so many other things. Now, I'm going to have to clear with HQ whether or not we're allowed to donate to HQ employees, but assuming that we are, he will for sure be receiving the reward. If he cannot accept the reward, then we will donate it to a good cause in the community. But yeah, just to briefly reiterate, Shoes has been excellent for a lot of the developers behind the scenes. He's one of the very top back end developers that HQ has, and we couldn't be more proud not only to have him on Lisk's team, but also for to have a bit of his time, and for him to stop out of his even his private time to give us some help. So he's really been a major factor. Thank you, Shoes.
Yes, congratulations. And I'd like to mention also that I think HQ is getting a lot done lately, and also they are communicating more and more on Discord, even Max and Chucky and everybody. So it's really cool to see that that everybody is involved also online. Congratulations, Shoes.
So yeah, and really, I mean, he deserves it. And just to close out, we don't ever like to have forgotten anybody. So the so we're still going to allow the follow-ups if anybody wants to make a case in the defense of someone who they think deserves this award. Please, by all means, you can privately message me, Stellar Dynamic, on Discord. And if you can make a good case for someone, or yourself for that matter, who's a non-forging delegate but has made significant contributions in the past year, please pass them my way. Because even if they won't be included in this, we're going to find some way to ensure that they're recognized and rewarded. But that's all the winners for that we have for now. And we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna be keeping our ears and eyes open for the next round of these people. And if you know someone who you think was deserving but unmentioned, please bring it up to me, and I'll see what I can do about that. The rewards will be issued as quickly as we can. So some of these people we have to track down addresses from. But that'll be happening over the next couple of days. And if you want to find any of the links that are any that we mentioned, they should be posted here in the.
Yes, and we'll do an update on Lisk USA's website with this list of winners.
So I think that's the majority of the contest. It's really been a pleasure to, produce this, and for everyone involved, congratulations. And I hope that you can keep up the pace because the future is bright and our best days are yet to come.
Thank you for organizing the contest and being so polite of granting prizes and also making a presentation and being here today with the Q&A.
Excellent. Everyone have a great day. We're gonna go ahead and close up shop. And just lastly, if, like I said, if you have any communications you want to make to me or about the contest or any of the questions, Stellar Dynamic is the name. So please, by all means, follow up.
Perfect.
Thanks, everyone.
Then we're going to close off now. Thank you very much, Stellar and Ultra Fresh, also known as Edward and Matt. Thank you very much for the good conversation of today and the prizes. And I hope that everybody comes back next week. If you have a speaker, or if you would like to speak, or if you would like to know something about the Lisk ecosystem, just let us know, because then we will approach someone to talk about it. And if you would like to get on the stage yourself, just send us a message through Discord or by email, whatever. So let's wrap it up. See you next week. Thank you very much for watching.